Hi everyone, I'm Matt Metzger, and you're listening to Ground Etc. This season, we are talking all things soil prep and landscape contracting. From the right equipment, to the right crew, to strategies needed to run a successful landscaping business. We talk to experts of the industry about the ground, the work, etc. Today, I am joined by the Vice President of Engineering and Product Development for ABI Attachments and Force by ABI, which honestly is the longest title I've ever come across. This is Mr. Nate Smith, and he's going to be giving us the rundown on the future of landscaping equipment today.
Hey.
Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
So just a little behind the scenes story. Nate and I have actually worked together for over a decade, and we don't know how this episode's going to go today. So if we tangential, you just hang out with us.
Hang on. We're a freight train. We're going somewhere. We don't know where yet.
Don't know where. So, okay, but we said we've known each other for over a decade, but Nate, you've been involved in dirt equipment, groundwork equipment for much longer than that. Before we get to your longer history, talk to us specifically about this long title, this role that you've got at ABI and Force by ABI. How did you come into it?
So I've been in the engineering department for over 10 years at ABI, actually over 11 years at ABI. And really my role now is sort of to get out the crystal ball and see the future.
Oh, no.
Like trying to figure out, what's the next thing? What are the trends? How can we better equip our customers to get the outdoor work done that they're trying to do? So what is the equipment they need? And what are they actually trying to accomplish? And are there better ways to do that? So yeah, it's literally digging out the crystal ball through trade shows, through talking to customers. I have the good or bad experience of reading a whole bunch of YouTube comments and everything else there that we.
Oh no, the comments section.
Oh yeah, we have actually made product changes based on YouTube comments. Like,
see, it does work. If you have product ideas or insights, drop it in those comments. Not just for us, for anyone.
I have to be careful about posting on blogs because then I get messages and then people are like, "Oh, what about this for this?" We've wondered about that. So yeah.
Well, and you were, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you one of the first engineers that Kevin Kegley and Scott Holmes ever hired at ABI?
Yes, I was. So yeah, it's been a fun road, like from where we started to where we are now.
Well, Nate, I love how you said crystal ball to look at the future. And that's ironic for me because I know that no one loves old equipment, and no one I know other than you studies old equipment and even has old equipment that wait. Why don't you share a little bit? What's some of the old equipment that you appreciate and what do you have on your own property?
Personally, yeah, at home, yes, I have a 1955 Ford tractor. I have all the old stuff. I went to an auction once and bought a 1940 tractor just for my kids to play on. That's just, which they love, by the way.
Well, which we loved. And working with Nate in customer service when I was there for years at ABI, anytime someone would call up and we were trying to work out an attachment and how it fit to a Ford N, right? Hang on, let's call Nate real fast.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Oh, don't sell that manure spreader to that one. That PTO turns backwards. I remember stuff
Didn't know that. Didn't know the PTO progressed.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and even we shot a video shoot at your place one time with a brand new drag, right, for a tractors on a 3-point. And when we posted the video up, we got more comments about your old tractor than we did about the new attachment.
Yeah, they had to take the video down.
We get.
Yeah, oops.
This is like a collector's item. So why didn't you talk a little bit then about how here we have two polars, right? That you love looking at historical equipment. Mm-hmm. You appreciate the history of dirt work. And that is aiding you somehow in looking into the future on what people will need going forward. How do those two things blend together?
Well, so much of it is number one, a lot of things have been done before. It's funny actually talking to our patent attorneys, our patent attorney has quoted, you guys are my only client that I have to go back 150 years in prior art in order to figure out if it's patentable or not.
Yeah.
So it's number one, kudos to Kevin Kegley, our owner, and us that we can still come up with stuff that we can get patents on today. Yeah. That's we can still be unique. But there are so many things that were done in the past, especially on smaller machines or different, specialty machines that we can learn from. And I'm going to get nerdy here for a second.
Get nerdy. We're ready for it.
The 3-point hitch. So a big pitch that I will have for you is go to the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit area. You can see the 1938 prototype of the 1939 9N. And why is that so nerdy and cool and whatever? You could take a modern 3-point tool like what ABI builds and connect to that prototype. The hitch has not changed since 1938.
Wow.
Like the basic connection.
That's impressive. So, I mean, how does that feed into? How does that knowledge then of historical equipment feed into the design work that you and your team are doing in trying to provide innovative and cutting edge products for people?
Well, soil is still soil, and so much of it, like we start from the ground up. If you want to like we talk about how do we do things uniquely or differently, so many equipment companies start with the engine or the transmission or the frame or whatever they're like known for. And we're starting with the dirt and working our way up. Because we're starting with the results that we have to create in that soil, whether it be a seed bed or some other type of ground prepped for some other like horse arena discipline or something like that. Like we are dirt experts. Like me and the CEO nerd out over talking about sand silt clay ratios. like real confession. On a date with my wife 2 weeks ago, I stopped by a synthetic sports field that was being installed to get a sample of the sand that they were using as an infill.
Hey, honey, quick detour from midnight.
Yes.
So that's funny.
It's a very large, very rounded particle.
So whereas you nerd out on the salt-silt clay ratio, I space out on that when it came to my biology classes. If you're willing to sacrifice some like prime date night time, right, in order to nerd out on stuff like this, where'd this interest and desire come from? I mean,
gosh, if you go all the way back, like I worked on a dairy farm in high school. I just used to love like watching the corn start to appear from nothing, just like like how it just slowly. I mean, I know you have a farm background too, so like just seeing the little corn plants prop up and just curious with how it all worked and everything, and especially on the machinery side, like tearing things apart and figuring out. I was that kid who took apart his tricycle when he was 5. Like, I fixed the parent zero-turn mower like when I was like 10, 12 years old. Like,
shoot, you were handy to have around.
I had fabricated a snow plow on the mower deck when I was about 12 or 13. Like,
this is in your blood, man. You've always been doing
what
this.
I've always been doing. So, and so that kind of just crossed over professionally then. I mean, I worked at a big production ag type place for a couple years. And then I landed at one of the large mower manufacturers doing zero-turn mower engineering for one of them.
Nice.
And then I found my way to ABI, just kind of way more formalizing and fleshing out the engineering department here just about 11 and a half years ago. And so it's kind of gone from there. It's been a wild, fun ride. Like,
well, and I know we're tying your kind of personal history and career in with what you have like learned and discovered about how historical engineering and historical groundwork equipment is wildly applicable still today, right? Give us that crossover, because I know you're talking about, the 3-point hitch being around over 100 years. And I know a lot of people who are listening or watching right now.
No, sorry, I'm an engineer. It's only like 90.
Correct. He's going to correct me on my numbers this entire time. Watch this.
Yeah,
This is constant fact checking.
86.
There it is. All right. So some people who are listening or watching, they may be using non-tractor equipment on their property, right? Could be stand-on equipment, could be, like you said, zero-turn, could be smaller operations that don't need tractors with 3-point hitches. What's that crossover, right?
That's such an excellent and unique thing. And that's actually where the future is going, is it's all about eliminating the hand labor. So you make a good point. I either have this big tractor or I have a rake. And let's be honest, no one wants to hold the rake and have to go rake that area.
But there's such a big price difference.
Yes.
I can afford a rake.
Well, but if I'm paying a guy to pull a rake, or I'm paying a guy to sit in the seat or do something that moves way quicker, and that's where like the Force by ABI really shines. As we say, it's 3 guys with a rake, and it really is. Like, yes, it's only 5.5 foot wide. Yes, it is what it is. I mean, it's not huge. Like, if you're thinking dirt work, you're like, timeout. But actually, being small and nimble, it really is like that maneuverability.
So Nate, so far we're talking a lot about kind of the history of groundwork tied in with the history of the tractor. And not everyone watching or listening to this podcast has a tractor, or even if they do, not every job they pick up requires one. So
Absolutely.
talk to me a little bit about that transition from dirt work was tractor work, which before it was rake work. So it went from rake to tractor, and now what if I don't need a tractor for the jobs I'm on?
Well, you're hitting exactly on it. And that's one of the big things we're trying to do is give you a rake that's not one you drag around by a stick. Like I have 4 kids, and to get them to rake or do anything like that, like no, yeah, like I get it. Like we know employees are hard to find, like good employees, and then you're going to say, hey, guess what? Today we're doing this tiny little yard or this tiny little area, and so I can't get my 8-foot wide landscape rake in there.
Or my skid steer or the bobcat.
Yeah. And the skid steer is going to tear it up, or there's a gate back there. And so I'm not going to get through the gate. So guess what? We got 4 rakes and some shovels and a wheelbarrow.
Which, right. And I'm sure, be honest, like if you're bidding that job and you see that a piece of equipment is all too big for the job, what are you doing to those bids, right? Like, it's going to be just endless man hours, and that's the least efficient kind of hour, right?
So that's one of the things where we've seen like the force equipment in general, where we're targeting it for is solving those problems. Again, we come up with better ways to get outdoor work done. So what are some better ways? How do we get rid of those 3 guys with rakes? It's a 5.5-foot rake on a 0-turn chassis.
Right. Which now that can be a touchy subject for people, right? Like, how do we get rid of the guys with rakes?
Well, we're not actually getting rid of guys. They would way rather sit on a machine with a cup holder to drink their cold beverage
and a phone charger.
And a phone charger.
Listening to this podcast.
Number 2, when we redesigned the Z23 chassis, one of our products, the 2 things most requested were a better cup holder and a way to charge my phone.
Oh, I love that. That's funny.
Like, we get it. That's what people actually want. They're going to be on this machine all day. Like, make it comfortable. Make it how you want to actually use it.
Yeah. Well, and if you're listening to this, and if you're familiar at all with Force by ABI and the products there in that lineup, if you own the business, you know that hand rake time is not efficient time. And if you don't own the business and you're on the hand rake, you know that hand rake time is not efficient time. So looking for that equipment then to ease that efficiency, right? To help us be more proficient and get the job done faster.
And we get it. There are labor shortages, and labor rates are going up. And so, those jobs, those small jobs, that certain small odd-shaped job, 4-foot gate jobs, whatever.
Well, and it's different, right? I mean, you and I used to bale hay for a penny a bale, right?
Yes, dude. Yeah. Well, uphill both ways going to school, too.
Well, but again, and even I know across the country now, minimum wages are going up. And so the jobs that my 14-year-old used to get brought on for, $5.25 to pull a dirt rake, like you can't do that anymore. No. So how do we get smarter? That goes back to those better strategies. So I want to talk more about the equipment. Before I get there, though, I want to back up just real fast because we are talking things that are still true about dirt work now that were true in Henry Ford's era, right? Yeah. But there are also some things that are current misconceptions about the industry, right? People that they think are true, and maybe someone listening, let's say let's say they've got a lawn mowing industry. Let's say they've got a lawn care industry, and they're like, you know what? I'm trying to diversify. I want to expand my portfolio of customers. Like, do I get in? Do I not? I don't know. Like, what's
exactly? So many people think it's about mowing, but here's what, and this is the cool thing about it, ABI, working with customers and even getting work on with some influencers. Like, I recently spent some time with Pete Denny, and he has really opened my eyes to, like, there are guys who just make tall grass short. When I was mowing 4 or 5 yards when I was 12 years old, let's be honest, I was a making tall grass short guy.
Yeah.
Like, that is one level, but that is the race to the bottom. And so the guys who really want to excel in their business, they got to offer other services. They got to fert. They gotta aerate. They gotta do other things. Because if you can actually get on a spectrum, so if you think about it as a spectrum from the 12-year-old making tall grass short, that is such a low barrier to entry business.
Yeah.
Like, anybody with a pickup truck and a trailer is in that business.
Or with 2 legs. My son has got into that. Like, he now picked up the neighbors. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
a push mower
someone could have.
Like, you're there. So guys got to get out of that commoditized, like, race to the bottom business. Yeah. So it's like, how can we offer other services? And how can we get to those clients who actually care about cut quality and actually care about, hey, I can fix that dead spot you have over there because that's where the dog does his business, whatever it is. Like, I'll comfort that. I'll come aerate that spot that's trampled down because that's where the kids always put the soccer goal. when you get into sports turf manager realm, and that's where we have great insight, and it's really helpful then to see those things. These guys that are ferting, that are doing other things. And so that drives, aeration, there are a host of other services that can actually increase value to your customer, and people who care are willing to pay for it. And that might be part of the key, is that guys got to look for the customer that will care enough for that.
I love it. Let's get, because you just did a great job identifying kind of the vision behind the creation of the Force and the Force line of products. And you gave the vision and the rationale, and here's what we're trying to accomplish and empower business owners, empower operators to do more than just make tall grass short, right?
Yep.
Get nitty gritty with this. So talk to us about how the introduction of the Force line of products initially changed the industry when it came online. How many years ago now?
Yeah. So actually, I want to say 2011 or 2012 is when the original model, the Z18, came out.
Yeah.
And it was revolutionary in its time. I will give Kevin Kegley, who has been on the podcast here, all the credit in the world for having come up with that whole concept and everything. And it was built around a chassis built by another manufacturer, and we did pretty well with it. I actually have many great stories about those machines, but there came a point in time in which we decided we had to build our own machine. We had to be our own, and we had to come up with a way, being tied to someone else's machine. There were certain things we couldn't do, like the better cup holder, like the cell phone charger, like things like that. That we're like, hey, we just need to build our own, and so we decided to do it. And so by listening to customers and having a stack of feedback and charge forward, and that's where the Z23 model came from. And we have actually built more capability into that machine than we use.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing is part of that functionality actually coming to full fruition.
Got it.
So design from the beginning is way more capacity in that machine than people even realize.
Well, and it seems like it's not just an add-on, right? It's not just that, ABI had, this line of products, we just need one more thing, or expand out a little bit, or make this one thing just a little bit different. It seems like from the very beginning, it was not expand to a different product. It was take a look at what people are doing. How can we help them do it better?
Right.
And it's a custom built.
And I'm going to go back full circle to, well, why do we aerate? It's because the soil gets decompacted. Going back to, we start with the ground up.
Yeah.
I understand. My engineers have to understand, why do we have to decompact? Well, roots need nutrients.
Yeah.
Air, it's fundamental yet confusing that air is actually nutrition to the plant.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get air down into the soil.
Yeah.
So things like that, understanding the fundamentals. So yes, we have to decompact. We have to fert properly. We have to be able to control where that's being thrown and not be wasteful for it, because fert's expensive, seed's expensive. Like, these are real operating costs.
Yeah.
We get it.
All right, so Nate, we kind of rabbit trailed there for a little bit on the product and how it's impacted. There's websites and websites about all the different impacts of the Force.
But I nerd out on that stuff.
I know, me too. But I do want to pivot a little bit, because not only do we have people listening to or watching this episode that use the equipment or are responsible for people who use the equipment, but we also have people who work with people and lead teams and guide teams and own businesses. And you got that pretty fancy title there. Like as vice president, you also have a team of people that you lead.
I do.
So I'd love for you to speak to what it's like to lead a group of engineers and to lead a team of people. And caveat to this, everyone, is that Nate probably reads more leadership books than just about anyone else I know. And so this is but seriously though, this is a topic that's near and dear for both of us, because we want to take good care of the people that we're working with. So
absolutely.
I know that you could talk for hours on this topic. Give me a couple of key pieces of advice of what do you recommend for people leading teams?
Well, I think you kind of hit on it, and really knowing and caring about them and kind of what's going on. So, like knowing your guys or gals one-on-one and kind of what's going on in their life. Because like, I literally had the epiphany the other day with someone where it's like, wow, like they have more potential. We got to figure out how to harness that.
Yeah.
Like just by sitting down and talking to them, like one-on-one. Hey, how's it going at home? Like, what's the current stressors in your life? Like,
so what would you say? I like that. And in agreement, what would you say to someone who says, like, Nate, cool, sounds great, I get it, I want to make sure that my people are cared for. honestly, I can't keep up with the work. I don't have time to sit and make those kind of
I
conversations.
get it, but 20 minutes, it could be in the truck going from a job to the other or something. Hey, ride with me and let's have a conversation. I think so much with our people bottles up and then it explodes all at once instead of just, hey, I'm here. And yeah, you don't have an office. They can't just, open door doesn't really work when the cab of your truck is your office. But
Yeah, you got the
you can't have the door open driving down the road. We definitely don't recommend that. But
It'd be entertaining.
yeah, but seriously,
Yeah. Making the most of that time.
Making the most of that. Hey, take your guys out to lunch once a month.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna buy you the Burger King this time. Let's sit down and
Yeah.
because I get it. Or the gas station in the morning. We know you're all at the gas station gassing up equipment in the morning. Like carve out that 10 minutes for that real, because people really want to be known.
Yeah.
And if you want, especially since we know turnover is so hard,
Yeah.
people stay where they're known and they want to be known.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit to the, in the same way that you've got a diverse group of team that you work with, right? Some doing design work and some manufacturing engineers and some in quality. A lot of folks listening and watching also have kind of a big spectrum of different work that needs to be done. Maybe they have a front office staff, or maybe they have somebody taking care of books. Maybe they've got somebody on a rake, but then they've got, a tractor operator and they've got some diversity in the team. How do you lead a group of people with different skill sets and who need to accomplish different things throughout the day?
Yes.
That was not a yes or no question, just for the record. I just want to be clear about that.
No, it's hard because I have guys who are welding and they're just cranking on welding. And I got guys that are, doing very deep thought level work. Like we're literally paying them to think. And not
It's a novel.
Yeah, and not to just do.
Yeah.
We joke that they rearrange electrons all day long.
More nerd jokes. I love this.
Yes. But I think it goes back to the fundamental clear expectations, clear definition of winning. Meetings. I know most of you probably don't deal with meetings, but clear outcomes of meetings, like deliverables, and I got to give Matt credit for this one, the daily stand up, 20 minutes of what'd you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? And what's blocking you?
Yeah.
Hitting those three things, because that is a cadence of accountability. So if you, shameless plug, book 4DX.
Yeah. There's some Stephen Covey stuff there.
Yeah. Of just having a cadence of constant accountability.
Yeah. Well, and this was a fun story too, because again, Nate and I have worked together for a while. Over the years, trying to tackle different challenges with efficiency and productivity and managing the projects and hitting, the deadlines that have to get made and the quality expectations, right?
Yeah.
And I remember it was just a couple months ago, actually, that you were saying, hey, the team is great. Everybody is humming, but it seems like we're not quite as in sync as what we need to be. And so this idea of a daily huddle really started as an experiment, because I don't tell Nate what to do, just so you know. He's got his title's longer than mine. I don't tell him what to do. But the said, hey, what if we tried this experiment? Can you give it 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of the day, every day, to rally the troops? And exactly like you just said, what has to happen at the end of the day? What is blocking that from happening?
Yep.
And so no matter what your team looks like, even if you're starting from different locations, do you have 5 or 10 minutes of the shop, 5 or 10 minutes around the truck, around the trailer before you head out? All right, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Because maybe what's blocking them is something as simple as, hey, my leaf blower is really hard to start. Can we figure that out? It might be something simple that guy feels appreciated and listened to. And
at how many jobs? All right, a leaf blower being hard to start. All right, how big a deal is that? Well, if you're talking 5, 10 jobs a day at a 5-minute startup time, well, you just gained an hour back, right?
Right. Well, even if it could be the spark arrestor plugged or something, something stupid simple. Just equipping our people. It's the fundamental of leadership, yet it is so critical. And we get, to your point, so busy that we lose sight of that.
Yep. So we've talked, making people feel seen, taking just a couple of minutes, asking questions, getting to know people. We talk kind of guiding people specifically into different jobs that they've got. Mm-hmm. I'm also curious, especially for and how this pertains to leadership, right? With the crews that you've got and trying to accomplish different things in the crew. I mean, you've got different audiences that you're working with as well, right?
Yeah.
I know with ABI attachments, it's primarily directly to the end user. Forced by ABI, you're also working with dealers, right? So
Yep.
why don't you talk a little bit about what it's like to design the tools and work with the team to design products that hit such a wide variety of markets and audiences, right? That you're working with, you're thinking of the end user, you're thinking of the dealer, you're thinking of the business owner.
It sounds dumb, but it's so simple. It starts with listening. It starts with actually listening to the dealer, to listening to the end user, and asking good questions. I used to be, I have a career mentor, uncle of mine, who's amazing. And he told me an engineer's job is to know. But I'm going to disagree slightly. I think an engineer's job is really to ask the right questions.
I like that.
In order to solve the problem. Because we're fundamentally solving problems. So I got to understand your problem, but I got to understand the root cause of that problem. So to your point, literally I was in a meeting yesterday and we're like, oh, that's an interesting concept. What does that look like at the dealership?
Yeah.
Like, how does that affect our dealer? How does that affect our end customer if we do things like that? Like, we have to be, and I was in a meeting with our CEO, like we have to ask those questions top to bottom.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and we've talked before too. I mean, I love that you're pointing out asking the right questions and listening. And when the force was opened up to a dealer network, right? There's a lot of us around ABI attachments and enforced by ABI that we were curious, what does it look like to work with somebody that is actually between us and the end user, right? And I think some of us, and I was a little bit nervous about that at first, but what we found is that there's a lot of great insight on the dealer level.
It is super helpful actually to get, insight into the market. They're the ones talking to the customer, and to have their help on the service end of things to be on the ground. So Matt worked in customer service previously.
Yeah.
Previously, I've taken those phone calls. It is incredibly difficult to diagnose a motorized piece of equipment over the phone.
Yeah.
Like, funny side story. So I got a phone call once from a force being used at a Major League Baseball field that will remain nameless on a Sunday afternoon because the laser was going crazy, just bouncing up and down and everything. Turns out a laser interferes with the Jumbotron. Who knew?
Who knew?
That's not in the manual.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So literally they got them to turn off the Jumbotron because he was laser grading the field for opening day for an MLB team.
Seems like a pretty important
No
assignment.
pressure.
No pressure.
Like diagnosing that over the phone, really?
Sure.
Versus having dealerships that can be there on the ground, that can actually see it, that is so much quicker, more efficient. Being that face of the customer to be able to advise, to see their conditions, let that customer experience our tools.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest challenges is when you're an innovative company. This is something we talk about a lot, is we make stuff that's a little different. Like, it's not necessarily what people are used to. Like we talked about the historical stuff. It's not a landscape rake. It's not just a harrow. So much of this equipment comes from like ancient ag to like soil prep is soil prep.
And so all the feedback we can get, the more the better. And I guess this is a kind of a shameless plug that if you're listening to this and you work with a dealership for any of the products that you need to run your business, give them feedback. I know we talked at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, we
about,
listen to them.
Like reading comments and listening to comments and whatever medium you choose. But if you work with somebody who's providing you your equipment and your resources and your tools, let them know, because they're a key role in working with the people making the products to make something great that you actually can use and is gradually improving.
Yeah. We want to hear, hey, this cup holder stinks or whatever it is. We joke about that.
Usually it's more significant than the cup holder.
Yeah. Usually
Although what's more significant than staying hydrated?
Yeah.
All right. So I know that you mentioned like as we're working on things and tailoring projects and future equipment to what the feedback that we're receiving. What are you working on right now?
There's a lot of capability built into the C23 chassis that we haven't actually utilized. Back when we initially designed it, we put a whole lot of hydraulic capability to run hydraulic attachments. And it's It's not something that we initially tapped into just because the market was using it more for baseball field grooming and grading and laser grading and some sports turf specialty stuff. But we knew there was way more potential in there for our commercial cutters and fertilizers and other people.
Yeah.
And so what we're leading with actually is a hydraulically powered aerator that we've put under the mid-mount.
Nice.
So first products, great guys to work with, have patented and designed the aerator that fractures the compaction in the soil. But we've taken a little different take on it in that we put it in the middle of the machine so we can control its depth very positively. And we let the head swing side to side, just like our static aerator that we've offered for years. But what that means is that aerators make excellent flail mowers. If you like pull them out of the dirt or put them back into the dirt, like they tear out turf like crazy.
Yeah.
And so standard operating procedure with an aerator is to drive straight, shut it off, pick up, turn around, set it back down, turn back on.
So cumbersome.
Yeah. So we made this thing so the head swings underneath 15 degrees each way. So you can go along that nice curvy edge of the sidewalk or whatever it is and just keep going. You can just run around that yard.
Well, back to that efficiency, right?
Yeah, it's a productivity saver. It's easier to operate because you just tell your guy, hey, put it down and turn it on and drive. Yeah. He doesn't have to know that he's going to rip out turf.
Yeah. No 180s. No.
Yeah. Please. You can circle around some trees. You know, it has some limits.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to make guys way more productive. Nice. They can then seed off the same machine. There's a lot more things that we can do with that hydraulic capability that we have. There's a power broom that we're showing. That's been a request. Front and probably eventually a mid-mount broom.
Nice.
Just lots more things that off that platform. Some seating improvements.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're really trying to footing improvements. There's some better snowplow options, salt spread. We get it. A lot of our crews, they need to be four-season. Those of us that live up here north and have this thing called snow to deal with.
Yeah.
And we promise it will eventually snow again. I know the last two winters have been rough. I'm sorry, guys, if you're really dependent upon the snow income there. Get your contracts early. But
it sounds like everything you're doing with that force lineup is to add additional products that make it easier to have one force on the trailer with the add-ons. That way you get to the job site and you can maximize the time spent.
And it is way more than just that dirt working machine. Not that it doesn't do that well. So a fun side story I have to tell. I remember years ago, when we first developed the laser force, we had a customer come to us that had a minor oil leak that was getting fixed. And but he said, I can't be without this machine. It's making me too much money. And this goes back to our labor saving point is he was redoing tee boxes, golf course tee boxes. And he had gone from 3 guys, 2 days doing a tee box to 1 guy himself with a sod cutter and a laser force in half a day.
It's impressive.
Like he would peel back the sod, grade it out, roll back out new sod, and be done.
Yeah.
Just like that. And see, literally the machine was making him too much money to be down.
Yeah, he was. I remember that. So he came in, he actually stood there and waited on it.
Yes. Yes, because he was going from one job to another.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it.
Like that is the value that we try to generate for our customers. So when we can find new and innovative ways to do that, that's why we're working on this stuff.
Well, and you can, I mean, from your excitement, that just speaks to, again, to your desire, your team's desire, ABI's desire, the force's desire to really maximize effectiveness, profitability for people in the landscaping industry.
Yep. And I think that is another advantage when you talked about teams and how we lead our teams, like go and see. Like that's a principle through all kinds of things. Like, what is the customer actually trying to do?
Yeah.
So, they need to decompact the soil. Well, okay, here's a better way to do that.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'm actually really excited about, and again, you may have seen this at Equip or seen other things of, we've had many customers tell us they need to move material around a job site. They need to be able to get stuff off the truck, like full bucket loads of stuff. So we've gotten into the material handling business, but we've done it with a little different tweak than what others have.
Yeah.
So we've used a lot of these mini loaders. We sell attachments. There's the SR Mini for a mini loading machine, and it works well. But there's a challenge. You have to drive backwards. And let's face it, nobody likes driving backwards. Those machines are a little awkward to begin with. And so we've always said, if we made a mini loader, we need to make it finish forwards. And that's what we're working on.
I love it.
Is literally, we can put an attachment on the back of our mini loader. So you can put an attachment on the front and one on the back and finish in one pass. And carry your material to the job site still.
Yeah.
You have the ability to make the spoils piles and pick them up, to rake the rocks into a pile and then clean them up with the same machine.
I love it.
So it sounds because trailer space are another just huge thing. We get it. Guys have just a dump trailer, just a pickup truck. We get it. The DOT rules. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Finding somebody with a CDL Class A is just a nightmare right now.
And the skid steers are only getting heavier. You know, you talk trends in the industry, it's the bigger, the heavier, and that's great. And we have tools for that. But not everybody get through the 4-foot gate with a 9,000 pound skid steer. It just doesn't happen.
Well, and again, if all you've got is a 250, a 350, and a flatbed trailer, you don't want to muscle up to that CDL size. Yeah.
No, not every job requires that.
Right.
So how do we give the guys, the 3 guys with a rake, the small, simple tool that can go in there and get the job done? And so, we get it. You need to carry the material too. And we have even more fun things planned in that machine, so stay tuned.
I was going to say, it sounds like we need to keep our eyes open when it comes to product innovation. You did mention, and I think that we can probably end on this, Nate, because you're a great one to ask, because you've got so much historical knowledge of dirt work industry, and it sounds like you do a ton of research on trends going forward.
It is kind of my hobby.
Yeah, What do you do not working? Work, right? So I know you mentioned a couple of things there that weren't just Forced by ABI related, but actually industry and market related. So for the folks listening this is their space, you mentioned the harder to find, CDL drivers. You mentioned skid steers, loaders, excavators getting heavier and heavier. Any other trends that we should be aware of that you're seeing in the industry so that we can stay on top of and be mindful of as we're looking for equipment?
A huge demographic one is, and I'm a nerd on all this, so researching this, is lawns are shrinking. Like, people generally know that, but lawns are getting smaller. Like, since I ran a stat recently, since 1992, like, lawns are 20% smaller than they were in new housing builds.
Interesting.
Most lawns are now 0.16 to 0.19 acres, like over 60% of them.
Interesting.
A fascinating little tidbit. So this is very regionally driven, but not like how you think. You would think out west, they would be larger.
More space.
The largest place they actually are is New England.
Interesting.
Due to zoning requirements.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. So then thinking through, if you have a landscape company or a landscape contract company that you're working with the dirt, working with the lawns, keeping in mind about how much space are you working in, how much turnaround space do you have?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we started as a company, and I get it, with tractors, with 7.5 foot, 8.5 foot wide stuff. And there's a market for that.
Yeah.
But the market is telling us, the lawn size is telling us, the future is small.
Yeah.
The future is nimble.
And then going back to that hand rake, right? So if you've got a smaller lawn, like, well, I know I shouldn't use hand rake, but my tractor attachment doesn't work. What are my options?
Yeah. I can't turn around when I got a 20 by 20 spot to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to be efficient. I'm going to drag a big circle. like, let's not do that.
Not helpful at all. Which sometimes it feels like I'm running in circles. When
yeah. But yeah, so no, we see these trends in the industry, and it's going to be very regional. But lawns are smaller. Like, I was recently talking to somebody in Europe that they size their equipment to go through the house to get to the backyard. Like,
can you imagine?
Yes, they have to be like under 24 inches wide. Like, we probably aren't going there anytime soon.
I'm trying to picture that conversation with my wife, actually. Like, honey,
hey, honey, I'm going to drive the dining room through the house.
Out the back, yeah. You try it first, and then you let me know how it goes.
Probably not well.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for all the information you gave today. Not only your history, allowing us to get to know you a little bit and allowing everybody else, since we already know each other, and also a rundown on what we can expect from the future of Forced by ABI, but also some great insights on the market, the industry, some helpful leadership tips for all of you who are running teams, owning businesses, and this is your livelihood. I mean, you want to have a successful business, yes, but yeah, you want to be profitable and have a great life as well. So I hope that some lessons from today's episode have been helpful for that. And subscribe to this channel. Make sure to subscribe to socials that way you can track along. And make sure to go visit forcebyabi.com because we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Maybe by the time you're watching this, it's already come out. So check up on those attachments, those powered equipment for the ABI Force. And we hope to see you next time.